In today's video, how to lean down your quads.
All by myself.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Ravella from ProPhysique.com. In today's video, well, I'm back to answering questions. So if you guys are interested in asking me a question, in today's question, we're gonna talk about just how to get your legs leaner, how to size down those quads. Well, the question came from right here on my Instagram direct message. So if you're not already subscribed to my channel, well, boo, subscribe to my channel, please. But then go to my Instagram, send me a direct message, and let's talk about your questions, because what I like to do is help people out that have questions, but maybe don't have a resource. And today's question is a good one, and it's another one of these questions that I get sometimes, and I just kind of fluff it off and say, well, that's just a silly question. But in reality, it's something we definitely can address about sizing down the quads, getting the legs smaller, getting more detail. Now, I'm gonna come at this from two different directions, okay? And I'm gonna give you specifics on everything from, nutrition, cardio, but I wanna cover two different directions here. So let's say you are somebody who's very quad dominant. We're gonna start with someone that has muscle, too much muscle in the legs, okay? And they want to downsize their quads for stage. And now this person asks me, what type of cardio would you do? So I'm gonna come at this from both directions, okay? So we're gonna start with someone that's got too much muscle, okay? Yes, there are people out there that definitely have quad dominant bodies. And especially, I work with so many bikini competitors that are like, hey coach, how do we make these things kind of not stand out so much? It certainly can be a problem because the bikini division, right, it's all about lines, it's all about shape. And if you have a wildly dominant lower body, it can kind of make you look out of balance, okay? It's great to have some leg muscle, but you don't want tons of it. So, the first rule of downsizing quad muscles is to make sure you're not engaging them in a strenuous activity, okay? So as silly as it sounds, some people don't realize that they're actually getting a lot of quad work involved in something that they're doing on a daily basis. Now, listen, if you're squatting and leg pressing and doing lots of leg extensions, well, maybe you just stop doing that. Stop the training of the legs. If you want them to get smaller, atrophy is an actual tool you can use. But I find when I do that, people that are quad dominant, they're still able to grow their quads. A lot of people have big quads from just gymnastics or playing sports or something like this, right? So how do we then get rid of them? Well, when we're dieting down and we're in a caloric deficit, one method that I found is through using means of cardio that kind of break down the tissue. So, I found one year when I dieted for shows, I did a ton of Stairmaster, and I noticed my quads got smaller during that year. When I looked back at the pictures, I thought, man, my quads got smaller. What did I do differently this year? And for me, the Stairmaster, and if you think about it, the Stairmaster, you're hip hinging. You're basically doing high endurance lunges a lot. So a lot of times what I'll have my competitors do, or people that are dieting down and they want to keep leg muscle, is I'll suggest we don't use a lot of Stairmaster, okay? It can actually have an impact negatively on muscle size. But if you're someone who has dominant quads and you want to downsize, that type of cardio might work. Though, if you notice that your quads are actually getting bigger doing the Stairmaster, you just might be a freaky genetic outlier that just builds muscle no matter what you do. I've even heard stories of people not training legs at all, zero leg training, just let the muscle atrophy. It just depends how serious you want to take this. So when we're coming at it from that perspective of how do we get this muscle smaller? The number one way is going to be to atrophy. Also look at your activities. If you're riding a bike, if you're doing any kind of sprinting, any type of sport that might, be using the quads, that might be creating your size issue. Now, let's come at this from the other angle. How do we size down the quads if it's just a body fat issue, okay? If you're just not getting lean enough, you're not seeing the lines. Now, this is a more common problem. It's actually quite problem. Because why? Lower body fat is going to be the last bit of the last bit of body fat to come off the body, okay, for most people. Most male bodybuilders, quad lines and separation is going to be some of the last detail that comes in. So what a lot of times what I find is people come to me and say, hey coach, what is the exercise to do? What is the cardio to do? What is the best diet to get that detail in? And as much as I would love to tell you that you need to do this exercise or this type of cardio, it ultimately just comes down to getting leaner. Okay, now I do think there are better ways to do it. You know, if we're worried about retaining leg muscle, we need to continue to train heavy. Okay, I like to separate building muscle from losing fat. I don't like those two to blend. I like to have someone go in the gym to build the muscle, and I like to use the diet and the caloric deficit that we create to bring the body fat off. Now, ultimately, getting that lean for almost everybody is going to require some type of cardio, whether it be low intensity, steady state. If you like high intensity cardio, medium, whatever it is, you're going to have to create a caloric deficit. Sometimes diet alone is not going to allow us to do that. Okay, so when that's the case, I find that low intensity steady state towards the end of the diet. Now again, remember, you're struggling to get the legs lean. So if you start off using high intensity cardio, but then you find your workouts are suffering, what I typically do is pull out high intensity, replace it with low intensity steady state. Why? Well, because we can do a lot of low intensity steady state. And as I've discussed in many other videos before, the type of cardio you do or the intensity of the cardio you do really defines the fuel source that you've used. So low intensity steady state cardio is primarily going to use body fat as fuel. It's going to liberate body fat as fuel. Now, the real issue there is that it's just time consuming. You know, you have to do it for a while. But last year, you know, I talk about myself a lot because I go through this process. I've tried multiple things. I've basically experimented on myself and my clients for the last decade. Last year was the first year that I did no high intensity cardio. I just did low intensity steady state, walking on a treadmill. It's the leanest I got, and it's the best I felt during prep ever. So what I'm suggesting is that you make a little bit more time for steady state cardio at the end of prep to get those last minute details in, and that you diet longer. A lot of people they like to put a time limit on prep. Don't do that. Give yourself enough time to prep that you don't really choose the show to do. If you're not sure, you know, if you're seasoned at this, you might already know, like, okay, it takes me about this long to get to this point. I know when I can compete. But if you're new to this and you really want to bring in shredded lower body, give yourself enough time so that you can wait till you see those details and then pick a show. So that's the two approaches to leaning out the lower body. Now, you might be in the boat where both are important, okay? You need to lose the muscle and you need to do some cardio to get lean. In that case, if you're someone that has to do cardio to get lean, I would tend to do cardio that either A, helps you lean out the muscles, like a Stairmaster, helps you lean out the legs. But if you find that doing the Stairmaster makes you keep muscle, because it possibly could, depending on your genetic makeup, well then, again, low intensity, steady state, it's not gonna hypertrophy your legs. So it's potentially a better option for you. Either way, it just comes down to getting lean. If you want to see the details in your legs, if you want to make your legs smaller, sometimes if you have quad dominant body and you get really, really lean, and you take that body fat off, you might be a little bit less quad dominant. It might just be the body fat residing in that area. It's hard to tell and hard to give specifics on an individual, but that's how I approach it, guys, and hopefully that answers your question for today. I want you guys to have an awesome Friday, a kick-ass weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.
By myself.